Nevada is known for bright lights, bustling casinos, and endless deserts, but hidden behind the neon glow are secrets that refuse to stay buried. In hotels scattered across the state, guests have reported doors opening by themselves, footsteps echoing in empty hallways, and whispers that chill the very air. Some say that in certain rooms, the past never left. Shadows linger where tragedies once occurred, and restless spirits roam corridors at night. Visitors who check in may find themselves sharing a room with more than just the living. Some hear voices calling from behind walls, while others see figures standing in doorways that should be empty. Tonight, we step into Nevada's darkest corners to explore the top 20 haunted hotels, places where history, tragedy, and the supernatural collide. If you could stay in one of these rooms, would you brave the night, or would you check out while you still can? Hello, my dear friend. I hope you are doing well and staying safe tonight, because what we are about to explore is not for the faint of heart. Nevada's hotels are famous for luxury, high-stakes gambling, and glamorous shows. But behind the FAA Section 8s, there is another story. Some buildings carry the weight of tragedy, murder, and despair. Others are homes to spirits who refuse to leave. Guests have reported cold drafts, sudden noises, shadows that move in impossible ways, and rooms that seem to shift on their own. Some visitors have left shaken, some terrified, and some say that the experiences follow them home. Before we enter, let me ask you this: if you felt a presence watching you from the shadows of your hotel room, would you confront it, or would you flee into the night? Take a deep breath, and let us begin our journey into the top 20 haunted hotels of Nevada. Nevada's desert stretches wide and unbroken, the sun blazing down on hotels that glitter like jewels against the barren landscape. By day, these resorts shine with opulence, fountains sparkling and neon signs pulsing, promising excitement, fortune, and spectacle. But as night falls, the bright lights do not erase what lingers in shadow. Behind the luxury and glamour, some of these buildings carry weight that no amount of renovation can erase. Guests often describe an unease that begins subtly. A hallway feels colder than it should. A room that was silent becomes alive with whispers that cannot be placed. The air seems heavier, charged with a presence unseen yet keenly felt. It is not the clamor of casino floors or the laughter of late-night crowds. It is something older, persistent, and observant. Rooms seem to shift slightly while no one is looking. Furniture moves imperceptibly, as though adjusting to unseen occupants. Shadows stretch and bend in impossible ways, following the edge of vision and disappearing when confronted. Steps echo down corridors that should be empty. A breeze brushes against the skin in the dead of night, carrying with it a chill that reaches deeper than the air temperature. Some hotels are built on histories that cannot be ignored. Tragedy has left marks in brick, plaster, and stone. Fires, accidents, and acts of violence have unfolded quietly behind closed doors, leaving behind impressions that linger. Visitors often arrive without knowledge of these events, yet feel their weight almost immediately. It is as if the buildings themselves remember. The stories vary. Some speak of quiet figures glimpsed at the end of long hallways, standing perfectly still before fading into walls. Others recount sudden noises, a glass shattering without cause, footsteps pacing across empty suites, doors opening and closing despite being locked. Cold drafts sweep through rooms that are sealed from outside air. Guests describe unease that grows steadily, pressing into awareness like water filling a basin. Those who linger report more personal encounters. Objects shift when no one is watching. Lights flicker unexpectedly. Mirrors seem to catch more than reflections, holding images that vanish when looked at directly. Time can feel distorted. A few minutes stretch, while hours pass unnoticed. There is a subtle pressure, a sense of being watched. Even under the brightest lamps or the busiest casino floors. that never fully dissipates, even under the brightest lamps or the busiest casino floors. Some experiences follow guests home. The sense of being observed. The faint echo of footsteps. The uneasy feeling of something near. Linger after leaving the hotel. Dreams carry shadowy corridors. Familiar rooms that have transformed slightly. And whispers that cannot be deciphered. It is as if the buildings have left a piece of themselves. A reminder that their stories do not end when checkout occurs. Yet the hotels continue to operate, hosting tourists, performers, and high-stakes gamblers. The energy of human life overlays the unseen presence, creating a unique tension between vibrancy and stillness. In some suites, it is possible to feel both simultaneously of the thrill of neon and laughter, alongside the quiet insistence of what cannot be seen. The staff often notice the subtle anomalies as well. Cleaning crews mention objects in odd positions or unexplained drafts. Security personnel hear noises in wings that have been closed for hours. Maintenance staff occasionally find minor disturbances with no clear source. These details are recorded quietly, forming an unspoken acknowledgement that some corners of the hotels do not belong entirely to the living. Visitors who approach with respect and attention tend to describe a different experience than those who enter casually. Walking slowly, observing the space, listening to the rhythm of creaks and echoes, reveals nuances that are easily overlooked. There is a sense of dialogue, not in words, but in movement, temperature, and presence. The buildings communicate in a language of subtle cues. The buildings communicate in a language of subtle cues. Some guests are frightened. Others are intrigued. Few leave indifferent. The energy of the hotels is complex, a mixture of history, architecture, human activity, and something unseen. The experiences do not require belief in the supernatural, yet they persist in a way that defies explanation. Leaving impression after impression on those who spend the night within the walls. By sunrise, the neon fades, the desert air warms, and the corridors regain their mundane appearance. Yet the memory of the night remains vivid for those who experienced it. Even in daylight, corners of the hotels feel different, quieter, as if holding secrets that only reveal themselves under the cover of darkness. The top 20 haunted hotels of Nevada each hold their own stories, histories, and presences. Some are notorious, known for tragedies that shaped their reputation. Others are subtle, quietly asserting their attention through the smallest of anomalies. Together, they form a network of spaces where luxury and mystery intertwine, and where visitors are invited to witness what lingers beyond the visible. Entering these hotels is to enter a world of duality. Glittering casinos and lavish suites exist alongside shadows and echoes. Every room, corridor, and lobby holds the potential to unsettle, to awaken awareness of something beyond the ordinary. Guests walk between worlds, their senses heightened, their imagination engaged, their courage tested. Nevada's haunted hotels do not demand belief. They simply exist, persistent and watchful, offering encounters that are at once subtle and profound. The memories created here linger, becoming part of the traveler's story. And occasionally, a part of the hotel itself. Those who leave may never see the place the same way again. Yet they carry forward the undeniable impression that within these walls, they were never truly alone. The Desert Mirage Hotel rises from the sands like a forgotten jewel. Its once grand FAA Section A cracked and sun-bleached. The windows, now broken and streaked with dust, reflect the harsh glare of the desert sun by day and the pale light of the moon at night. Time has not been kind here. Walls that once echoed with laughter and music now groan under the weight of neglect. Sand drifts through hallways, forming gentle dunes that cover faded rugs and chipped marble. Visitors who step through the main entrance are immediately struck by a strange stillness. The air is heavy, carrying both heat and silence. broken only by the occasional creak of a shutter or the whisper of wind through broken windows. The lobby stretches out like a stage set abandoned mid-performance. Chandeliers swaying slightly as though still touched by invisible hands. The reception desk stands empty. But impressions linger. As if the space remembers the bustle of check-ins, laughter, and clinking glasses. At dusk, explorers begin to notice subtle sounds. A soft melody drifts from the grand ballroom, light and distant at first, like a memory pressing against the walls. The notes carry across long corridors, looping gently around corners before fading into silence. Many describe the music as both beautiful and unsettling, a reminder of elegance now decayed. Some follow it, hoping to discover the source, only to find the room empty, with dust swirling in the moonlight and broken mirrors reflecting shadows that do not belong to the living. Figures in evening gowns have been glimpsed, gliding through the ruins of the ballroom, their movements smooth and deliberate. They vanish as quickly as they appear, leaving only the faint scent of perfume and the echo of soft footsteps on marble. Guests who see them often feel a cold hush settle over the room, a sudden awareness that they are not alone. The effect is subtle but unmistakable, leaving the heart racing even after the figures disappear. The upper floors hold another layer of mystery. Corridors stretch endlessly, lined with doorways that open onto empty rooms. Faded wallpaper peels from the walls, and the floorboards groan under every step. Some explorers report objects shifting slightly when they are not looking, chairs angled differently, doors left ajar. The sensation is brief, but it compounds the feeling that the hotel is alive in its own way, observing and responding to every movement. The owner's legacy is said to linger most strongly in the lobby. A solitary figure, standing tall yet ethereal, has been reported by several guests. He moves silently, counting imaginary money at the reception desk, meticulous in gestures that seem almost obsessive. There is no anger or malice, only a continued adherence to routines long abandoned by the living. Those who witness him often describe an uncanny mix of presence and absence, a spirit caught between the past and the present. Explorers who linger too long in the Desert Mirage Hotel frequently experience strange distortions in time. Minutes stretch into hours, and familiar hallways seem to shift in length or angle. Maps and compasses lose meaning, leaving visitors to rely on instinct as the Bodinga's memory guides or misleads them. Rooms that once hosted laughter and music now carry an echo of those lives. Crystal glasses and broken plates litter the floors, reflecting fractured light. Dust motes float in the beams of late afternoon sun, settling slowly over remnants of opulence. Even in the smallest corners, there is a sense of history, of moments frozen mid-motion, waiting for witnesses to pass by and acknowledge them. At night, shadows gather differently. They lengthen and stretch in unnatural ways, merging with dark corners of the building. The sound of distant music grows louder, yet remains elusive. Some visitors swear the figures in gowns peer from the edges of mirrors, observing without motion. A cold draft brushes past unexpectedly, carrying the scent of old wood, faint perfume, and desert dust. The hotel feels both fragile and eternal, decaying yet preserved in a quiet, spectral routine. Despite the eerie sensations, the Desert Mirage Hotel retains undeniable beauty. Arches and columns bear traces of intricate craftsmanship. Sunlight at dawn casts long, golden rays across the floors, highlighting remnants of grandeur. Faded murals and patterned tiles tell stories of lavish evenings, dancing, and desert luxury. It is this contrasta between elegance and decay, life and stillness that captivates those who venture inside. Visitors leave the Desert Mirage Hotel changed. Some carry a vivid memory of music that seemed alive, figures that appeared and vanished, and the sense of being observed by a place older than themselves. Others experience lingering dreams filled with glittering ballrooms and whispering corridors, haunted not by fear but by the beauty and mystery that clings to every corner. The building is more than architecture. It is memory, presence, and a testament to the passage of time and the endurance of echoes. The Desert Mirage Hotel stands as it has for decades, abandoned yet animated, a silent witness to desert winds and shifting sands. Those who enter may never fully comprehend its quiet energy, yet they cannot leave untouched. The music, the shadows, the echoes of lives long gone, remain behind and within them. A reminder that some places do not simply vanish. They endure, breathing slowly, observing, and inviting those curious enough to walk their empty halls. To experience a history that is both beautiful and haunting. Silver sands and rises from the edge of a dry lakebed, its weathered facade a relic of the 1920s. The hotel's windows catch the fading sunlight, reflecting golden hues across cracked pavement and scrubland. By day, it appears quiet, almost forgotten, a monument to an era when travelers arrived by carriages and early automobiles. By night, the atmosphere shifts. Shadows lengthen unnaturally across balconies and hallways. And the air feels heavier, charged with an unseen presence. Guests and visitors speak cautiously about their experiences. Many describe the sensation of being watched, a silent awareness that follows them through the halls. Balconies that overlook the desolate lakebed often reveal fleeting shapes in long coats. They appear in the corner of the eye, motionless and still, framed against the darkening sky. When approached, the figures vanish as if they were never there, leaving only an empty railing and the whisper of wind through the hotel's decaying exterior. The hallways carry sounds that cannot be easily explained. Floorboards creak without footsteps, doors open with no touch, and voices murmur names that are unfamiliar and ancient. Some guests have felt icy hands settle lightly on their shoulders, a touch that disappears when turned toward. It is a coldness that seems to drain warmth, leaving the skin prickling and the mind alert. Those who experience it rarely speak aloud immediately, choosing instead to absorb the moment and consider whether it was real or imagined. The lobby, once grand with polished wood and tall windows, now holds echoes of laughter, conversation, and music from decades past. Even when empty, there is a feeling of presence. Furniture seems subtly rearranged, chandeliers sway lightly despite still air, and the floor vibrates with faint resonance as if the building itself remembers its lively past. The lakebed stretches outward from the hotel, barren and cracked, reflecting moonlight in patterns that shift subtly as though responding to unseen movement. Nighttime amplifies these sensations. Guests report waking to whispers in unfamiliar voices, echoing across empty corridors or sliding through slightly ajar doors. These whispers call names no one alive recognizes. The words are soft, almost melodic, yet carry weight and urgency. Footsteps sometimes accompany the voices, yet the source remains invisible. Some have glimpsed shadows crossing rooms, pausing just out of reach, leaving a lingering impression that someone or something is near. The architecture of Silver Sands contributes to its haunting. Long hallways intersect at odd angles, staircases curve in unexpected directions. And mirrors reflect not only the present but hints of movement that cannot be accounted for. Windows capture fleeting shapes on the dry lakebed below. But those standing outside see nothing more than empty night and sand. The interplay between interior space and the expansive, barren exterior seems to blur boundaries between what is real and what is spectral. Several guests return from excursions to find belongings moved, furniture slightly shifted, or doors closed that they remember leaving open. Items sometimes appear in entirely new locations. These experiences are never violent, yet they are enough to unsettle anyone who senses the hotel is aware of their presence. Even those who dismiss such events as coincidence often leave with the sense that Silver Sands observes them, silently cataloging their movements. The dry lakebed itself adds to the eerie atmosphere. Wind moves across the cracked surface, producing a whispering sound that carries faintly into the hotel. Moonlight casts long shadows that stretch toward the inn's balconies, merging with the shapes of the shadowy figures. In certain conditions, the reflections on the surface appear to move independently, creating illusions of walking silhouettes that vanish when followed. Staff and locals are aware of the stories and often treat them with quiet respect. They know the hotel has history and that those who spend the night may experience sensations beyond the ordinary. Reports are shared carefully, often with the caveat that perception is subjective, yet patterns emerge over time. Shadows, icy touches, whispers, and figures in long coats are recounted frequently enough to suggest more than imagination alone. Visitors who leave Silver Sands Inn carry a lingering unease. The sense of being watched, the ephemeral shapes, and the inexplicable touches remain in memory long after departure. Some speak of dreams that mirror the inn's hallways, echoes of voices calling their names, and the faintest hint of a cold hand brushing past. Even during daylight, the building seems to hold a presence, a quiet reminder of nights spent in the company of shadows. Its walls hold memories of joy and work, of laughter and loneliness, and perhaps fragments of those who have never truly left. Where time, sound, and light bend to the inn's rhythm. A space where the line between past and present, living and spectral, is indistinct. The hotel does not seek to frighten. It does not chase or harm. It simply exists, a repository of history, memory, and subtle presence. Those who stay experience a narrative written into the walls, floors, and balconies, a story that unfolds in whispers, shadows, and fleeting touches. A story that unfolds in whispers, shadows, and fleeting touches. Silver Sands Inn reminds all who enter that some places retain the essence of those who passed through, carrying them gently into the present and leaving traces that endure long after the night ends. The Lucky Star Hotel rises along the city street with an elegance that belies its dark history. Once a thriving center of gambling and nightlife in the 1940s, its marble floors and ornate fixtures reflected the glimmer of chandeliers and the excitement of fortunes won and lost. Even today, the building maintains an air of glamour, though it carries whispers of events long past and lives cut short within its walls. Guests walking through the lobby notice the polished surfaces and high ceilings, but the atmosphere often feels heavier than expected. Footsteps echo oddly in empty hallways. And the scent of old wood and fading perfume lingers. The building feels alive in its own way, as if it remembers the people who once filled its rooms and corridors. The casino floor, though no longer in operation, seems to hum quietly at times. Slot machines, long since removed, are reported to play faintly in empty rooms. The sound is soft at first, almost imperceptible, then grows clearer as if machines are spinning coins unseen. Guests pause, glancing toward the source, but the rooms are bare, furnished only with echoes of the past. Figures occasionally appear near elevators and stairwells, dressed in period clothing from the height of the hotel's fame. Men in sharp suits and fedoras. Women in elegant dresses and hats. Stand silently, observing the living with an intensity that is impossible to ignore. They do not move when approached, fading instead into shadow or disappearing entirely when attention is focused too closely. The presence of these figures can be disorienting. The hotel's architecture amplifies movement and sound, creating strange effects that make empty corridors feel crowded. And the faint scent of cigar smoke or perfume can drift along the hall, carrying the unmistakable impression of human activity long gone. Rooms on the upper floors hold their own stories. Some guests report feeling sudden drops in temperature, or a weight in the air that presses against the chest. Doors that were locked when the guests left sometimes appear slightly ajar. And lights flicker intermittently, creating the sensation of being watched. Yet no one is seen, and security footage rarely captures anything unusual. Even the exterior of the hotel suggests the weight of history. Streetlights reflect off the polished FAA Section A, and the neon glow of old signage, restored for heritage purposes, casts faint red and gold hues on the sidewalk at night. Passers-by occasionally report seeing silhouettes in the windows, moving briefly before vanishing. There is a lingering sense that the building remembers more than it shows. Visitors who spend the night often describe a mixture of awe and unease. The elegance of the architecture and the care taken in restoration are undeniable. Yet the knowledge of past tragedies. Gamblers who lost everything. Disputes that ended violently. Accidents in hidden corners. Colors perception. Shadows seem heavier, footsteps echo with unfamiliar timing. And silence carries a weight that cannot be measured. The hotel staff are aware of these reports, though they are careful to present a professional demeanor. Many have their own experiences to share quietly, recounting incidents that defy conventional explanation. A bellhop might mention seeing a figure step from a corridor only to vanish before being noticed, or a housekeeper may feel a sudden chill while arranging a room that was previously warm. Time within the Lucky Star Hotel can feel distorted. Moments of quiet can stretch longer than expected. And the boundaries between past and present seem to blur. Guests walking the hallways at night report an uncanny clarity. Noticing details in copyright COR and attire that no longer exist. Furniture and fixtures appear exactly as they did decades ago. Preserved in memory if not in reality. Despite its eerie reputation, the hotel continues to attract visitors. The allure of history and glamour remains strong, intertwined with curiosity about the unexplained events that occur there. People come for the elegance, the architecture, and the connection to a vibrant past. While also experiencing firsthand the subtle presence that seems to linger just beyond sight. By morning, the hotel returns to a familiar rhythm. The quiet hum of the building blends with the sounds of the city outside. Guests awaken with vivid memories of the night, moments that feel both real and surreal. Echoes of slot machines, faint drumming of heels on polished floors, and the lingering impression of watching figures leave an indelible mark. The Lucky Star Hotel stands as a testament to the passage of time and the endurance of memory. It embodies elegance, history, and mystery in equal measure. Those who enter leave with stories, impressions, and a subtle awareness that the building holds more than meets the eye. It continues to operate, offering hospitality and charm, yet beneath the polished surface, the presence of the past waits quietly, patient and unyielding. Even when empty, the Lucky Star Hotel feels alive. Its corridors, rooms, and silent spaces speak to those who listen carefully. The sounds, the figures, and the inexplicable sensations remind visitors that the past is never truly gone. The hotel does not threaten. It does not chase. It simply exists as it always has, a place where history and mystery converge, leaving every guest with a sense of wonder and unease that endures long after they depart. Coyote Canyon Lodge sits at the edge of a vast desert. Framed by rugged mesas and sparse vegetation that stretches to the horizon. During the day, the lodge appears inviting, a blend of rustic architecture and modern comfort. Sunlight glints off windows and warm stone walls. While the surrounding landscape radiates stillness, punctuated by the occasional windswept scrub or distant coyote call. Visitors often arrive seeking solitude, quiet, and the stark beauty of the desert. As night falls, the character of the lodge shifts. The desert grows colder, and shadows lengthen across patios, walkways, and parking areas. Guests report hearing howls unlike those of any known animal. They are long and resonant, echoing from far distances, yet impossibly close at times. The sound carries across sand and rock, unsettling in its unfamiliarity. Even those accustomed to the desert describe it as different, strange, and persistent. As if something is moving unseen among the dunes. Within the lodge, disturbances are subtle at first. Lights in unoccupied rooms flicker unpredictably, brightening and dimming without pattern. Guests passing corridors notice that bulbs sway or pulse, creating momentary pools of light that reveal nothing beyond the walls. The effect is disorienting, giving a sense of movement where none should exist. The effect is disorienting, giving a sense of movement where none should exist. The main dining hall, usually a place of warmth and social gathering, can feel especially peculiar at night. Empty chairs and tables are illuminated by low pendant lights that cast muted reflections across polished surfaces. In the corners, faint figures are reported, translucent and fleeting, moving slowly through space. They appear human in shape but lack substance, vanishing just before reaching the floor. Witnesses describe a sense of quiet anticipation, a feeling of being observed without immediate threat. Footsteps are occasionally heard on floors above or below, echoing in halls that should otherwise be silent. The sound is deliberate, not hurried, pacing measured, yet not matching any known pattern of staff or other guests. The building seems to have a rhythm of its own, a pulse that aligns with the night rather than the clock. Guests often feel a presence in the quieter corners of the lodge. A sensation of being watched is subtle but persistent. It is not overtly threatening, yet it draws attention, creating tension with every glance toward darkened corridors or shadowed lounges. Even in communal spaces, the awareness of something unseen generates a collective unease, a quiet curiosity mixed with caution. The desert beyond the lodge amplifies this sensation. Wind sweeps across open areas, moving sand in gentle waves. Distant rocks catch moonlight, creating illusions of motion in the periphery. The howls continue intermittently, sometimes seeming to approach, sometimes retreating. Visitors describe a patternless cadence, adding to the disorientation. The boundary between the interior and exterior blurs, as if the lodge itself is connected to the desert's unseen elements. Many who stay overnight describe dreams or impressions that carry the loggia's atmosphere into sleep. Images of corridors stretching endlessly, rooms filled with shifting shadows, and the echo of strange calls persist. The line between wakefulness and sleep feels thin, and upon waking, visitors often experience a heightened awareness of every sound, every movement, every flicker of light. Despite the unnerving experiences, the lodge retains a sense of calm beauty. The desert sky, expansive and star-filled, contrasts with the interior tension, offering perspective and space. Guests who rise early witness sunrise painting the surrounding mesas in warm colors. And the lodge appears serene once more. Light spills through windows, floors and walls regain normalcy. And the earlier disturbances fade from immediate perception, though memory preserves their impact. Staff maintain routines that are entirely ordinary, attending to rooms, cleaning halls, and preparing meals. Guests notice inconsistencies: objects moved slightly, personal items out of place, doors closed that were left open. These occurrences are never harmful but contribute to the feeling that the lodge has its own consciousness, observing and interacting in subtle ways. The loggia's history adds layers to its character. Over time, Coyote Canyon Lodge has hosted travelers seeking the desert's isolation, artists, and writers, and those in search of reflection. Some report hearing echoes of earlier visitors, moments repeating as if preserved within the walls. The desert itself, vast and timeless, may shape the loggia's personality, carrying wind, sound, and presence into its structure. Visitors leaving the lodge often feel compelled to glance back. There is a lingering impression that the building and surrounding desert continue to watch. The sense is not fear, but awareness, a connection maintained beyond the threshold of the door. The desert and the lodge exist in quiet dialogue, subtle and ongoing, leaving guests with a lasting impression. Coyote Canyon Lodge remains a place of beauty, solitude, and quiet mystery. The howls, flickering lights, and faint figures shape an experience that is unique, immersive, and unforgettable. It is a lodge that invites attention, rewards observation, and leaves those who enter with the sense that the desert is not entirely empty and quiet, mystery and solitude and beauty, solitude and quiet, mystery and solitude, beauty, solitude and quiet, mystery and solitude, beauty and quiet, mystery, solitude, beauty and solitude, beauty and quiet, mystery, solitude, beauty and solitude, beauty. The world stretches vast and unbroken, a tapestry of landscapes shaped by time, wind, and water. Mountains rise with quiet dignity, their peaks cutting into the sky like jagged teeth. Rivers carve valleys that wind for miles, carrying sediment and memory alike. Forests expand in endless green, each leaf and branch layered with the history of seasons past. Deserts shimmer under relentless sun, their dunes shifting slowly, holding stories in the grains of sand. The earth moves with a rhythm that is patient, enduring, and indifferent to human passage. Travelers entering these spaces often notice subtleties first. Light behaves differently depending on angle and season. Sounds travel strangely, bouncing off cliffs or vanishing in dense foliage. There is a sense that every element is connected. That observation itself becomes part of the landscape. As if the act of noticing alters the scene in ways both subtle and profound. Paths wind unpredictably, guided by topography rather than intention. Trails that seem straightforward at first can loop unexpectedly, bordered by undergrowth that shifts with wind and time. Rocks, fallen branches, and roots create obstacles that demand attention, but also offer a rhythm, a cadence to movement through the space. Walking becomes deliberate, meditative, and immersive, each step an acknowledgement of the complexity beneath the surface. Water is a constant companion. Streams trickle, cascade, or thunder over rocks, reflecting sunlight in fragmented patterns. Ponds mirror the sky, capturing clouds and the sway of surrounding trees. Even the smallest rivulet can alter perception, its presence felt through sound, sight, and touch. Water moves with intent, shaping soil and stone, nourishing flora and fauna, and reminding all who approach of the persistent power of natural forces. Flora and fauna interact in subtle, intricate ways. Trees shift with seasons, leaves turning, branches bending under snow or wind. Wildflowers emerge in quiet bursts of color, insects flitting among them. Birds announce themselves with song and movement, often vanishing before full recognition. Animals leave traces on earth, in footprints, feathers, and the occasional fleeting glimpse through brush. Every organism participates in a dance of survival and adaptation, adding layers of observation to the environment. Weather changes gradually, then suddenly. Fog rises from valleys, softening edges, concealing and revealing simultaneously. Rain arrives with sound and scent, transforming dry soil into mud and illuminating leaves with fresh shine. Wind moves unseen, carrying voices, scents, and the energy of distant storms. Each shift is a reminder that the environment is alive, dynamic, and unpredictable, requiring respect and awareness from those who navigate it. Silence is equally powerful. In some moments, the absence of sound amplifies presence. A pause in wind or animal movement focuses attention, creating a heightened sense of connection to surroundings. Breaths, footsteps, and heartbeats become part of the soundscape, echoing faintly in valleys or dense forest. Observation becomes intimate, immersive, and sometimes disorienting, revealing depth beyond surface perception. Revelation and dread. Time behaves differently within these landscapes. Hours can feel compressed or extended depending on engagement and awareness. Light and shadow shift with subtlety, altering spatial relationships and perception. Travelers notice minor changes that accumulate into a profound understanding of place. Each day becomes a layered experience, integrating memory, movement, and observation into a continuous flow. Humans leave impressions even as they move through these spaces. Trails, footpaths, and campsites mark presence, but quickly fade under natural processes. Fallen leaves cover footprints, wind rearranges sand, and water erases traces. The land remains patient, indifferent to individual acts, yet responsive to cumulative activity. Respectful passage maintains balance, allowing observation without disruption. Night alters perception further. Darkness softens edges, blending shapes into a tapestry of subtle contrasts. Sounds become sharper, movement more deliberate, and awareness heightened. Stars emerge overhead, connecting distant light to the intimate space below. Shadows stretch and shift, inviting caution and curiosity. Travelers navigate with care, aware of both limitations and possibilities within the dimly lit world. Observation becomes a dialogue. Every step, sound, and gaze contributes to understanding, yet the environment resists full comprehension. Patterns emerge and dissolve, guiding attention without dictating action. This interplay between observer and observed fosters humility, patience, and awareness. It encourages focus, sensitivity, and connection, rewarding those who move with respect and intention. By the end of the journey, the land leaves a lasting impression. Memory retains shapes, sounds, and sensations that fade from immediate perception but linger in consciousness. Travelers carry fragments of the landscape within them, integrated with personal reflection, awareness, and understanding. They learn that immersion is not passive but participatory, that observation is both gift and responsibility, and that the environment holds lessons for those attentive enough to receive them. These landscapes, in their vastness and intricacy, remain constant and patient. Mountains, rivers, forests, and deserts continue their rhythms, shaped by forces far older than any observer. Human presence is temporary, fleeting, yet meaningful in its attention and care. To move through these spaces is to experience continuity, complexity, and connection. A reminder that the world exists both around and within perception, waiting to be explored, understood, and respected. The Phantom Inn stands alone on a quiet stretch of road. Its weathered FAA section ade hinting at decades of hardship and history. The paint peels from the walls, and the wooden sign sways slightly in the wind, creaking with every gust. Windows are clouded with dust and age, reflecting a distorted image of the surrounding landscape. Inside, the smell of old wood and lingering candle smoke hangs in the air, a reminder of nights long past. Visitors immediately notice a chill upon entering. The rooms hold a cold that seems separate from the air outside, settling heavily around the body. The history of the inn adds weight to every step. Tales of robberies and violent acts echo through the hallways, carried in whispers that seem to linger long after the events themselves. A painting crooked on a wall, a chair slightly out of place. The faint creak of floorboards where no one walks. Each small sign contributes to the uneasy atmosphere. Some visitors have felt themselves lifted from beds or nudged as they slept, light and gentle but unmistakable. The sensation is never threatening, more like guidance from invisible hands. Towels on racks, books on shelves, and chairs sometimes appear shifted, though no one admits moving them. The effect is disorienting, creating a sense that the inn itself is alive and aware, observing and responding to each presence. Hallways stretch dimly into shadow, lined with doors that lead to rooms filled with both light and dark. Curtains move with unseen breezes, casting elongated shapes across the floor. Furniture seems to hold energy, as though remembering conversations, laughter, and arguments from decades past. Guests moving quietly through these spaces often report a feeling of presence that is both watchful and patient. At night, the inn becomes a study in contrasts. The silence is nearly complete, broken only by distant knocks, creaks, and the soft rattle of loose shutters. The cold deepens, settling into sheets and clothing, and the shadows grow longer and darker. Guests awake to the feeling of being observed, a faint pressure in the room that is both physical and emotional. Some hear soft footsteps pacing along hallways outside their doors, always stopping when checked. Others sense movement in corners, only to find empty space. Despite these unsettling experiences, the inn retains a strange allure. Its architecture is simple but enduring, with high ceilings and sturdy wooden beams. Dust motes float in beams of moonlight that pierce through cracked windows, giving the rooms a suspended, timeless quality. Every creaking floorboard, every swaying shutter, contributes to the sense that the building is alive. A silent witness to the lives that have passed through it. The inn's history is layered and complex. Stories of travelers who never left, of guests who fled in the middle of the night, and of confrontations that ended in tragedy all linger in the collective memory of the space. Some say that the inn retains these moments, imprinting them on the very walls, making it a repository for both fear and fascination. Every visitor becomes part of that history, adding energy that the inn absorbs and holds in quiet perpetuity. Rooms that were once vibrant with activity now echo differently. Steps are muffled against the aged carpet, but the air vibrates faintly with previous presence. Conversations spoken aloud seem to dissipate slowly, as if recorded by the structure itself. Small touches, such as a hand sliding along a banister, can feel amplified in the stillness, creating a sensation that the building is attentive, alert, and aware. Guests often leave the phantom unchanged. Some carry the memory of cold that penetrates deeper than weather, of soft touches in the dark, and of shadows that shift independently of light. The experience lingers long after departure, in dreams and fleeting sensations, as the inn's presence follows quietly through memory. The phantom inn endures as it has for decades, standing silent beside the road, its walls holding countless stories of those who passed through. It is a place where history is tangible, where energy and memory coexist with wood, stone, and glass. To enter is to step into a space both ordinary and extraordinary, where the past whispers softly and the present is made aware of something older, patient, and persistent. The inn does not threaten, it observes, it guides, and it remembers, leaving every visitor with an impression that cannot be forgotten. The Mirage Towers rises above the city skyline, a gleaming structure of glass and steel. Its exterior reflects sunlight by day, illuminating nearby streets with brightness that promises luxury and modernity. The lobby is spacious and elegant, polished floors stretching under bright lights, concierge desks lined with brass accents, and chandeliers hanging like frozen waterfalls. By day, the hotel embodies comfort, wealth, and sophistication. By night, it takes on a different character, one that some guests describe as quietly unsettling. Elevators move smoothly between floors, carrying visitors to rooms high above the streets. Yet those who travel late at night sometimes see shapes shifting in corners. Shadowy figures appear briefly, vanishing when looked at directly. They seem human in form, yet their edges blur, their presence almost unreal. A faint sense of observation accompanies these moments, as though the figures notice every movement, every thought, without stepping fully into the light. Rooms within the Mirage Towers hold stories as well. Guests return from excursions to find lights flickering where they should be steady, and air conditioning units humming with uneven rhythm. And air conditioning units humming with uneven rhythm. Footsteps echo along hallways that should be empty. Footsteps echo along hallways that should be empty. Conversations drift from rooms that are unoccupied. Conversations drift from rooms that are unoccupied. Voices faint but distinct enough to suggest presence. Voices faint but distinct enough to suggest presence. Leaving an impression that the hotel itself hums with hidden activity. Some guests have reported feeling watched in their suites. Doors are closed, yet the sensation persists, a quiet awareness pressing against awareness. A sense that space is shared with unseen occupants. Shadows linger near windows, shifting subtly when approached. Lights glimmer across walls and floors in ways that defy explanation. Those who attempt to investigate often find nothing, yet the feeling remains. A residual mark on memory and perception. The rooftop of the Mirage Towers offers panoramic views of the city below, light stretching in every direction. From this height, the world seems distant and orderly. Yet after dark, some visitors have glimpsed a figure on the roof, a woman with pale skin and dark clothing, standing perfectly still. She does not move when approached. She does not speak. When seen directly, she is gone, leaving only the rooftop and the wind moving through safety railings. Her presence is brief yet haunting, a vision that lingers in the mind long after guests descend to lower floors. The architecture of the towers contributes to the experience. Hallways curve subtly, creating perspectives that make spaces appear larger or narrower than they are. Mirrors reflect corners that may contain nothing but give the impression of depth. Even the movement of elevators becomes part of the narrative, carrying people into enclosed spaces where the line between reality and suggestion grows thin. Night amplifies the sensation. The city beyond pulses with distant traffic and muted neon. But inside the hotel, sound and light behave differently. Steps echo unnaturally, voices linger longer than expected. And the movement of shadow appears deliberate. Guests describe a rhythm to the building itself. A subtle timing that shifts with each floor, each corridor, each moment spent within its walls. Some visitors attempt rational explanations, citing fatigue, lighting effects, or the imagination under stress. Yet patterns persist. Shadow figures appear repeatedly in elevators, the rooftop vision is reported by multiple independent guests, and footsteps echo in empty suites. Even those skeptical of the supernatural admit that the Mirage Towers produces sensations that are difficult to ignore. The staff is aware of these experiences and often speaks of them in hushed tones. Longtime employees describe unusual occurrences as part of the hotel's rhythm. Flickering lights, unexpected noises, and fleeting glimpses are acknowledged without embellishment. There is an understanding that the building holds memories and impressions from its past, subtle traces that influence the present. Guests leaving the hotel often carry a lingering unease. The sense of being observed does not end at the lobby doors. Nightmares and dreams replay hallways and rooftop views. Memory of footsteps in empty rooms, voices from silent suites, and fleeting figures in elevators resurfaces unexpectedly, even during daylight. The Mirage Towers imprints itself quietly, leaving traces that remain in thought and perception. Despite these experiences, the hotel continues to draw visitors seeking comfort, luxury, and panoramic views of the city. Most encounters are fleeting, easily dismissed as shadows or tricks of perspective. Yet for those who notice, the building is more than a structure. It is a presence, a repository of movement, memory, and energy, interacting subtly with everyone who enters. The Mirage Towers embodies contrast. It is modern yet timeless, luxurious yet mysterious. It invites admiration for its design and comfort while maintaining an elusive, almost sentient presence that is felt more than seen. Guests become part of an ongoing narrative, experiencing moments that blend architecture, light, shadow, and the unexplained. In quiet moments, the building seems to breathe. Shadows stretch, lights flicker, and the wind from upper floors carries faint echoes. Shapes move where none should be, voices float from empty rooms, and the rooftop figure lingers in memory. The Mirage Towers does not announce itself forcefully. It observes, quietly recording and gently reminding all who enter that some spaces are alive in ways that cannot be measured, only experienced. The Mirage Towers rises high above the city skyline, a modern monument of glass and steel. Its lobbies gleam with polished marble, and the scent of fresh flowers greets visitors with understated elegance. Luxury permeates every corner, from the soft lighting of hallways to the sleek design of rooms equipped with the latest amenities. Despite this modernity, a quiet unease has persisted within its walls, whispered among guests and staff alike. Elevators are often the first place visitors notice something unusual. Guests have reported shadow figures appearing briefly as doors open. Tall shapes that seem human but dissolve when approached. Their presence is subtle, a movement at the corner of vision, yet unmistakable in its effect. Those who encounter it describe a sudden chill, a sense of being observed, and a fleeting awareness that something is not quite right. Hallways that seem empty are not always silent. Footsteps echo in spaces that are otherwise unoccupied. Voices carry softly, conversations that stop abruptly when doors are opened or when someone attempts to listen more closely. It is as if the building remembers the people who once walked these halls, replaying fragments of sound that no longer have a source. Guests who stay overnight often find the sense of presence more pronounced after dark. Rooms that were checked and left empty can carry subtle signs of occupancy. Lights may flicker, doors close on their own, and objects shift slightly between visits. The changes are never dramatic, but they are enough to make even seasoned travelers pause. The rooftop is another location that draws attention. Some have glimpsed a pale woman standing at the edge, staring outward into the night. Her features are difficult to discern, but her presence is clear and commanding. She does not move when noticed, and she vanishes when someone calls out. The sight is brief yet unforgettable, leaving a lingering sense of mystery and unease. Staff members speak of similar experiences, though rarely in detail. Security personnel and maintenance crews often hear unexplained sounds late at night, footsteps that move through empty corridors or down stairwells with no clear origin. Cameras rarely capture anything unusual, yet the sensation of being watched persists. The architecture of the building may contribute to these phenomena. Still, even with explanations, the impact on perception is undeniable. A sense that the building itself is aware of movement, presence, and attention. Some guests feel a pressure that is hard to describe, an invisible weight that makes the room feel smaller than it is. Doors and windows appear normal, yet the air seems heavier, and sounds travel in unusual ways. Objects that were untouched hours before can appear slightly displaced, suggesting an unseen influence. The combination of luxury and strangeness creates a unique experience. The Mirage Towers continues to function as a premier destination, offering comfort, amenities, and breathtaking views of the city. Yet alongside this, there is an undercurrent of the unexplained that persists quietly, existing just beyond direct perception. Visitors often describe the building as beautiful and unsettling at the same time. It is impossible to ignore the contrast between the gleaming interiors and the subtle phenomena that occur. Shadows linger a fraction too long, voices echo from empty rooms, and the feeling of being observed follows even in areas designed for privacy. Even in the daytime, the towers retain a peculiar atmosphere. Reflections in glass panels can suggest movement behind Oni's back, and hallways seem longer than expected. Staff report that the building feels different when unoccupied, quieter yet more alert, as if holding itself in anticipation of something unseen. By night, these sensations intensify. Lights cast elongated shadows, and the city beyond glimmers with distance, creating a stark contrast to the enclosed spaces within. Guests who remain awake report an acute awareness of the structure, as though the building itself is alive, attentive, and aware of each presence within it. The Mirage Towers maintains its allure because of its elegance, height, and luxury. Visitors are drawn to its reputation, the comfort it provides, and the promise of modern amenities. Yet those who have encountered the unexplained speak of lasting impressions, a sense that the building carries memories and echoes of the past that continue to linger in the present. Even after leaving, guests carry the experience with them. The image of shadowed figures. The sound of faint conversations. And the memory of the pale woman on the rooftop leave an indelible mark. The building's beauty and comfort remain. But intertwined with it is a subtle awareness of something beyond ordinary perception. The Mirage Towers stands as a place where modernity and mystery coexist. It offers luxury and sophistication, yet beneath the polished surfaces, the traces of the unexplained endure. Guests leave with stories, impressions, and a heightened sense of curiosity. Understanding that the building is more than concrete, glass, and steel. It is a space where presence, memory, and perception intersect, creating an experience that lingers long after departure. Black Diamond Hotel rises from the edge of a quiet town, its stone and timber FAA Section A bearing the weight of decades. Built during the mining boom, the structure is a testament to ambition, labor, and the transient lives of those who came seeking fortune. By day, the hotel appears stately and grounded, its windows reflecting sunlight and its entrance welcoming travelers. Yet beneath the surface, there is a palpable tension, a sense that the building holds memories that have not yet faded. Inside, hallways stretch with low ceilings and creaking floorboards. Each step echoes softly, blending with distant drafts and the occasional groan of old timber. These subtle signs suggest that Black Diamond is more than mere wood and stone, that it carries the lives and labors of those who passed through it long ago. Many who have stayed report seeing figures in the hallways. Men and women in mining attire, tools in hand, walking with purpose as if completing tasks left unfinished. They move slowly and deliberately, following invisible routines, and vanish when approached directly. Doors often slam without warning, startling those in nearby rooms. There is no wind, no sign of external force. The sound reverberates through corridors, filling the space with tension. In some cases, guests have risen from sleep to find their doors closed or ajar in ways that defy explanation. The building seems to assert its presence quietly, reminding visitors that it is not merely a structure but a witness, a keeper of histories both ordinary and extraordinary. Rooms retain traces of past lives as well. Furniture is worn in patterns that reflect decades of use. Dust settles unevenly, as if disturbed by unseen hands. Light filters through tall windows differently at various hours, casting shifting shadows that suggest movement beyond the ordinary. In the dining areas, the echoes of past conversations linger faintly, the clink of utensils and low murmurs blending with the creaks of old floorboards. Some guests describe sensations more than sights, a sudden chill in a hallway, the feeling of being observed, or a subtle vibration underfoot, as if the hotel itself responds to presence. The atmosphere is heavy but not oppressive, charged with anticipation, as though every corridor and room has a story that waits to be acknowledged. Each sound, each movement, carries significance, and visitors find themselves attentive to the smallest details, drawn into the rhythm of the building's past. The basement and former storage areas amplify the sense of history. Metal scraping, footsteps, soft murmurs. The air is cooler, dense with the scent of stone and earth, and the sense of presence grows more tangible. Guests often report a heightened awareness, a mix of curiosity and reverence, as if they have crossed into a space still active with memory. Time feels different inside Black Diamond. Hours can pass unnoticed in the hushed halls. The outside world seems distant, sunlight muted through heavy windows. Evening brings a subtle intensification, shadows lengthen, the creaking of timber becomes more pronounced. And the figures of miners are more likely to appear, walking carefully, tools held as they were in life, following routines that end where they began. The building operates on its own rhythm, independent of clocks, responding instead to those who walk its floors. Guests leaving often report the same experience. They pause in the lobby or doorway, looking back at hallways and staircases, sensing that something observes their departure. There is no threat, only awareness. Black Diamond Hotel watches, and in that watching, it preserves continuity between past and present. The building holds the stories of miners, travelers, and staff. The echoes of labor, laughter, and quiet moments. And it allows glimpses of these threads to those who take the time to notice. Ultimately, Black Diamond Hotel is a place where history is alive, present in subtle ways that engage sight, sound, and feeling. Its creaking floors, flickering shadows, and ghostly figures are not merely stories but experiences that immerse visitors in the legacy of the mining era. Every hallway, every room, every tool left behind is a fragment of a larger narrative. A testament to the lives that shaped the place. And the mysteries that endure long after the workday ends. The hotel is not threatening, nor is it easily explained. It exists as a living repository of memory. A space where time bends, and the past remains tangible. Those who pass through carry with them the awareness that Black Diamond Hotel is more than a building. It is a witness, a keeper. And for a moment, a shared participant in the ongoing life of the past. Inviting careful attention, quiet respect, and enduring curiosity. The world stretches wide, a vast canvas of landscapes shaped by time, wind, and water. Mountains rise with quiet authority, their peaks cutting into the sky like jagged silhouettes against fading light. Valleys wind between them, carved over centuries by rivers that carry both water and memory. Forests spread endlessly, each tree and leaf layered with the history of seasons past. Deserts shimmer beneath relentless sun, their dunes shifting imperceptibly, holding stories in every grain of sand. The earth moves with a rhythm that is patient, enduring, and indifferent to human passage. Travelers entering these spaces notice subtleties first. Light bends differently through canopies, reflecting in patterns that change with each step. Shadows lengthen and twist across rock and root, creating shapes that seem almost alive. Sounds travel strangely, echoing off cliffs or vanishing in dense vegetation. Awareness deepens, as if every element of the environment is connected, and observation itself becomes part of the landscape. Paths wind unpredictably, guided by topography rather than intention. Trails that appear clear can loop unexpectedly, bordered by undergrowth that shifts subtly with wind and time. Fallen branches and stones create obstacles that demand focus, yet they offer rhythm, a cadence to movement that becomes meditative and immersive. Each step requires care, attention, and presence, allowing the traveler to enter fully into the environment. Water is a constant companion. Streams cascade over rocks or trickle silently through mossy channels, reflecting light in fractured patterns. Ponds capture the sky, mirroring clouds and the sway of surrounding trees. Even the smallest rivulet draws attention through sound, sight, and touch. Water moves with intent, shaping soil and stone, nourishing life, and reminding all who approach of the enduring power of natural forces. Flora and fauna interact in delicate, intricate ways. Trees bend and shift with the seasons, leaves turning and branches swaying under the weight of wind or snow. Wildflowers emerge in fleeting bursts of color, insects darting among them in rapid motion. Birds announce themselves with song and movement, vanishing before full recognition. Every organism contributes to a continuous cycle, adding depth and texture to the environment that surrounds human visitors. Weather shapes perception, changing gradually or suddenly. Fog rises from valleys, softening contours and concealing paths, offering both concealment and revelation. Rain arrives with sound and scent, transforming dry soil into dark, glistening earth and illuminating leaves with fresh shine. Wind moves unseen, carrying scents, voices, and energy across ridges. Each shift reminds travelers that the world is dynamic, alive, and unpredictable, demanding respect and awareness. Silence is equally profound. In still moments, the absence of sound amplifies presence. Breaths, footsteps, and heartbeats become part of the soundscape, echoing faintly in valleys or dense forest. Observation becomes intimate and immersive, highlighting the intricacies of movement, texture, and life. Awareness sharpens, revealing depth beyond the immediate view, and fostering a sense of connection and humility. Time behaves differently in these landscapes. Hours can feel compressed or stretched depending on attention and engagement. Light and shadow shift subtly, altering spatial relationships and perception. Minor changes accumulate into a profound understanding of place, and each day integrates memory, movement, and observation into a continuous flow. The traveler becomes part of the environment, attuned to its nuances, rhythms, and transformations. Human presence leaves temporary impressions. Trails, footpaths, and campsites mark passage, but fade quickly under natural processes. Leaves cover footprints. Wind rearranges sand. Water erases traces. The land remains patient, indifferent to individual acts, but responsive to cumulative activity. Respectful movement maintains balance, allowing observation without disruption. Night transforms perception further. Darkness softens edges, blending shapes into a tapestry of subtle contrasts. Sounds sharpen, movement becomes deliberate, and attention heightens. Stars appear overhead, connecting distant light to the intimate space below. Shadows shift, inviting caution and curiosity. Observation becomes dialogue. Every step, sound, and glance contributes to understanding, yet the environment resists full comprehension. Patterns emerge and dissolve, guiding attention without dictating action. This interplay fosters humility, patience, and heightened sensitivity. Focused presence allows travelers to perceive layers of complexity that remain invisible to the casual observer. Immersion is participatory, and observation becomes both gift and responsibility. Travelers recognize continuity, complexity, and connection, carrying fragments of the landscape within themselves. By journey's end, the land leaves lasting impressions. Shapes, sounds, and sensations linger in memory, integrated with personal reflection and awareness. Immersion is participatory, and observation becomes both gift and responsibility. This interplay fosters humility, patience, and heightened sensitivity. Focused presence allows travelers to perceive layers of complexity that remain invisible to the casual observer. By journey's end, the land leaves lasting impressions. Shapes, sounds, and sensations linger in memory, integrated with personal reflection and awareness. Immersion is participatory, and observation becomes both gift and responsibility. Travelers recognize continuity, complexity, and connection, carrying fragments of the landscape within themselves. Focused presence allows travelers to perceive layers of complexity that remain invisible to the casual observer. This interplay fosters humility, patience, and heightened sensitivity. Travelers recognize continuity, complexity, and connection, carrying fragments of the landscape within themselves. Shapes, sounds, and sensations linger in memory, integrated with personal reflection and awareness. Mountains, rivers, forests, and deserts endure with rhythms far older than any human presence. Travelers are temporary, fleeting, yet meaningful in their attention and care. Moving through these spaces reveals the interwoven fabric of the world, the interaction of life and matter, and the subtle lessons offered by observation, patience, and respect. Each journey leaves understanding, memory, and connection, a reminder that the earth exists both around and within perception, waiting to be experienced fully. The Ghostlight Hotel rises from the landscape like a shadowed monument, its tall silhouette outlined against stormy skies. Rain lashes the windows, and wind whistles through the cracks in the aged structure. The exterior is worn, brick and stone weathered by decades of storms and neglect, yet the building stands tall, a silent observer of the passage of time. Even from the road, there is a sense that the hotel is alive, watching, waiting for visitors to arrive. Inside, the air is heavy with moisture and the faint scent of old wood and varnish. On nights when the storm rages, lights flicker in the hallways and rooms, brightening and dimming in uneven pulses. The effect is unsettling because the power is often known to be off, yet the illumination persists, ghostly and unreliable, casting long shadows along the walls. Corridors stretch in every direction, lined with doors that open onto rooms that have seen countless guests and countless stories. Some visitors claim to have seen a tall man in a hat pacing silently along these hallways. He moves with purpose, slow and deliberate, pausing occasionally to survey the space before continuing. He is always distant enough to remain just beyond clear perception, leaving behind only a sense of presence, a weight in the air that is difficult to describe. The rooms themselves are filled with echoes of life once lived. Faded wallpaper peels in corners. And carpets are worn but still hint at patterns of elegance long faded. Soft cries sometimes fill the air, drifting out of empty rooms and fading into silence before their source can be identified. Occasionally, these sounds are accompanied by piano notes played somewhere deep in the building. The melody is fragmented and distant, carrying a mournful quality that adds to the lingering atmosphere of sadness and anticipation. Storms intensify the sensations within the Ghostlight Hotel. Rain pounding against the roof and windows blends with the distant piano, creating a rhythm that is almost hypnotic. Shadows move strangely in the corners, elongated and shifting with the flickering light. Guests report feeling watched, not aggressively, but consistently, as if unseen eyes follow each movement and observe without interruption. Even familiar hallways seem altered, stretching or bending in ways that defy memory and expectation. The energy of the hotel is subtle but pervasive. Small objects sometimes appear moved, chairs angled slightly differently. Doors left ajar. A glass on a table turned just enough to catch attention. Footsteps are often heard when no one is walking, measured and calm. As if the building itself carries a rhythm known only to its long history. Staying overnight magnifies these experiences. Sleep is shallow, frequently interrupted by strange sounds or shifts in the room. Guests awake to shadows that do not align with furniture, to flickering lights that illuminate corners briefly before plunging the space back into darkness. Some feel gentle touches or pressure, a sensation of being guided rather than threatened, moving the body slightly as if the hotel itself wishes to be acknowledged. The architecture of the Ghostlight Hotel contributes to its timeless feel. High ceilings, ornate moldings, and wide staircases hint at an era of grandeur. Even in decay, the building conveys elegance and careful design, as though every element was constructed with intention. The interplay of storm, light, shadow, and sound transforms these features into instruments that evoke unease and fascination simultaneously. Visitors often describe a sense of history pressing down on them. The hotel has seen lives begin and end, brief encounters, and long absences. Every corner carries weight, every hallway seems to remember those who passed through before. The tall man in the hat, the cries, the piano, the shifting objects all are layers of presence that coexist with the physical space. Tangible yet intangible, grounding yet elusive. Departing the Ghostlight Hotel leaves impressions that linger. The storm fades outside, yet within memory, the flickering lights, the distant music, and the weight of unseen observation remain. Dreams reflect the corridors, shadows, and figures encountered during the stay. Even after leaving, familiar sounds and sensations evoke the hotel's presence, subtle and insistent, as if reminding visitors that the experience does not end at the exit. The Ghostlight Hotel endures as it always has, a place where time, memory, and atmosphere converge. Storms, flickering lights, and shadowed corridors preserve the sense of mystery and anticipation. Visitors are drawn into its world, whether briefly or for nights at a time, encountering history that is felt more than seen. Encountering history that is felt more than seen. The building does not chase or frighten, it simply exists, patient and observant. Leaving all who enter with the unmistakable impression of a presence both old and eternal. A space that remembers and watches, carrying echoes of countless lives through the long, storm-filled nights. The Desert Moon Hotel sits isolated in the Nevada desert, a structure of stucco and stone that rises against endless sand and sky. By day, the sun reflects off its pale walls, casting long shadows across empty parking lots and the chapel at the far edge of the property. The heat radiates from the ground, making the hotel appear to shimmer like a mirage. By night, the desert cools rapidly, and the atmosphere changes. Darkness gathers around the building, and a stillness settles over the hotel that is heavier than the desert night alone. Guests and visitors often speak of the chapel first. A small building with stained glass and a steep roof, it stands apart from the main hotel. Shadows move inside when no one is present, fleeting shapes that linger near the altar and along the aisle. Some describe a figure in a long dress, pale and flowing, gliding silently across the chapel floor. The silhouette appears and disappears with no sound of footsteps, leaving only an impression of presence. Inside the hotel, hallways carry a quiet tension. Floorboards creak unexpectedly, doors open or close without touch. And the air carries sudden drops in temperature. These cold spots are localized, chilling the skin for an instant before warming again. Guests often pause in place, sensing something unseen nearby. A presence that observes without announcing itself. It is subtle, yet persistent, leaving a trace of unease that lingers long after the moment passes. Some visitors have caught glimpses of the shadow outside of the chapel, in hallways and along staircases. The figure does not interact directly, yet the awareness of being watched is strong. When followed, the shadow fades into corners or behind walls, leaving empty space and a sense that it has never left at all. The rooms of the Desert Moon Hotel hold similar impressions. Guests report feeling a presence when alone. Noticing subtle changes in light or temperature. Chairs may be slightly moved, curtains drift though windows are closed. And small objects appear out of place. These experiences are fleeting, never violent. But they create an unshakable sense that the hotel remembers the past. Echoing stories of sorrow that continue to resonate. Staff members speak of the history carefully. The hotel was built long ago. And the chapel was the site of many weddings and celebrations. Among the tales passed down is the story of a bride who vanished under tragic circumstances. Some say she lingered beyond her time. Bound to the place where her hopes and promises were broken. The figure glimpsed by guests may be the shadow of that past. Moving quietly through the spaces she once knew. The desert itself amplifies these sensations. Winds pass across the dunes with a soft whistle, carrying faint sounds into the hotel. Moonlight stretches shadows across the walls, changing the appearance of corners and hallways. The isolation intensifies the feeling of observation, making each movement seem noted and every sound heightened. Time feels different here, measured not in hours, but in moments of quiet awareness and fleeting impressions. At night, the chapel windows glow faintly from within, though no lights are on. Guests walking near the building feel a subtle pull, a sensation that draws attention toward the shadow within. The air is colder here, still, and the desert beyond seems muted. The figure is seen at the edges of vision, pale against the darkness, gliding with silent grace along walls and floors. Those who have stayed in the hotel report that the presence is strongest when alone. In rooms, hallways, or near staircases, the sensation of being observed grows. Doors open slowly on their own, creating small sounds that echo in otherwise silent corridors. Cold touches on shoulders are reported, fleeting but unmistakable, a reminder that the hotel is not entirely empty. Visitors leaving the Desert Moon Hotel carry the memory with them. The experience does not vanish at the edge of the property. Shadows replay in imagination, cold spots linger in memory. And the silhouette of the bride returns in dreams. Even during daylight, hallways and the chapel retain the sense of past presence. An impression of lives and moments that once occupied these spaces and never fully departed. The Desert Moon Hotel blends isolation with history, modern comfort with lingering echoes. Its architecture and location create a perfect canvas for these subtle experiences, where past and present coexist quietly. Guests become part of a narrative written into walls, hallways, and chapel aisles, a story of sorrow and observation that continues without disruption. In the quiet of night, the hotel breathes softly. The desert winds pass through windows and doorways. And shadows stretch across the hallways. The figure of the bride glides briefly into view. Near the chapel or a darkened corridor. Her presence felt more than seen. Cold spots ripple along the floor. Doors move without touch. And the air holds a whisper of memory. The Desert Moon Hotel waits silently. A place where the past lingers and the present becomes aware of what has never left. The Silver Creek Hotel sits quietly beside a winding creek that swells and recedes with the seasons. During the day, sunlight glints off the water, and the surrounding trees sway gently in the breeze. The building itself is modest, with a timeless architecture that blends with its natural surroundings. Yet despite its calm appearance, the hotel has long been associated with whispers of the unexplained and the presence of those who never truly left. Guests often first notice the sound of water. It is subtle at first, a faint rush that seems distant, but unmistakable. Rooms along the creek side carry this sound even when the creek itself is calm. And floors away from the water echo the movement as if currents flow beneath the building. The sound is continuous, rising and falling, creating the impression of life where none exists. Figures appear with equal subtlety. Guests report seeing shapes moving through corridors in dripping clothing, the outlines of wet coats or dresses clinging to shadowed forms. These figures wander slowly, their presence more sensed than observed at first. They do not speak, do not interact, and vanish when approached, leaving only damp footprints or a fleeting chill in their wake. The effect is heightened at night. The hotel takes on a different character once darkness settles over the creek and surrounding woods. Hallways that were familiar in daylight seem narrower, echoing footsteps in ways that confuse perception. Doors that were securely closed may creak open on their own, and the gentle sound of water rushing grows louder and more insistent. Many guests describe a feeling of being watched. It is subtle, a pressure in the room, an awareness that someone unseen is moving nearby. The combination of sound, shadow, and anticipation creates a palpable tension. Even seasoned travelers find themselves on edge, listening intently to every small noise. That lingers long after the initial encounter. The hotel's architecture amplifies these sensations. Wooden floors creak under weight. Yet sometimes the creaks occur without anyone walking above. Light from lamps flickers and casts elongated shadows across walls and furniture. Reflections in mirrors appear distorted, showing angles and shapes that do not align with reality. The interplay of light, sound, and movement creates a dynamic that is both mesmerizing and unsettling. Staff members have their own experiences. Housekeepers report sudden dampness on floors. Maintenance workers occasionally find equipment or furniture displaced. Even in routine activities, there is an unspoken acknowledgement. Rooms nearest the creek seem particularly affected. Guests here hear footsteps along corridors or stairwells, yet find the hallways empty. The sound of dripping water follows them from room to room. Doors close softly behind them when unattended. And the ambient chill intensifies, especially in rooms with large windows facing the creek. Those who stay overnight often awaken to the same sounds, recurring without variation. The gentle rush of water, the quiet footsteps, and the presence of unseen figures repeat in a pattern that feels deliberate. Though no pattern can be discerned. It is a rhythm of the building itself, persistent and insistent, reminding visitors of the history it holds. Despite these occurrences, the hotel retains its charm and appeal. Its location near the creek is picturesque, and the surrounding nature offers tranquility and beauty. The air is fresh, and the architecture reflects a careful balance between comfort and rustic elegance. Guests are drawn to the setting, often captivated by the juxtaposition of serene landscape and subtle unease. Time within the Silver Creek Hotel behaves in a unique way. Moments can feel elongated, especially during encounters with the unseen. A single sound or movement may seem to stretch indefinitely, creating tension and heightening awareness. The mind fills gaps, crafting a narrative from the environment that blurs the line between imagination and reality. Visitors who leave often carry lasting impressions. The memory of water rushing where none exists. The fleeting glimpses of wet figures in corridors. And the sensation of being observed persist long after departure. The hotel leaves a mark on perception, reminding guests that some spaces retain traces of history and presence that cannot be entirely explained. By morning, the creek appears calm once more, reflecting sunlight in sparkling patterns across the water. The hallways seem ordinary, and shadows retreat with the first light. Yet the memory of the night lingers, creating a subtle awareness that the building is never quite empty and that those who have passed before continue to wander quietly. The Silver Creek Hotel endures as a place of beauty and mystery. It invites guests to experience comfort and elegance, while simultaneously offering encounters with the unexplained. The building does not threaten, nor does it chase. It simply exists, holding the echoes of water, the silhouettes of figures, and the lingering presence of those who never left. Creating an experience that remains vivid long after the journey ends. The Crimson Eagle Hotel stands at the edge of a quiet street, its Art Deco FAA section worn but still imposing, a relic of a bygone era. Built in the 1930s as a casino and hotel, it once drew crowds of hopeful gamblers, performers, and travelers seeking excitement. Today, the building retains the elegance of its prime, with marble floors, sweeping staircases, and chandeliers that catch the faint light filtering through tall windows. Yet beneath the surface lies a presence that refuses to fade, a history etched into every wall and corridor. Visitors often describe the lobby as alive in a way that defies explanation. Shadows shift against polished surfaces, sometimes forming figures that resemble people from the hotel's past. Men in sharp suits and women in evening gowns appear fleetingly, moving with purpose. Their expressions reflect joy, tension, or sorrow. At times, they seem to replay events long since past, gestures frozen mid-action, before dissolving into the ambient air. The impression is one of history persisting, of moments trapped yet vivid, inviting observers to witness without interference. Doors slam suddenly, the sound echoing sharply across the hallways and ballrooms. There is no wind, no force that could account for the movement. The slam resonates, startling, and for a moment the hotel seems to respond to presence, as if acknowledging those who enter. Guests walking past these doors often pause, listening, scanning for any sign of life, yet finding only empty corridors and the subtle creak of aged timber. In the former casino areas, the air carries an electric anticipation. Some guests hear the clinking of chips, soft and rhythmic, as if a game is still underway. Cards shuffle faintly on tables that have been unoccupied for decades. The sounds are tangible but fleeting, vanishing when approached. Players report feeling a subtle pull toward certain tables, a suggestion that they participate in a game whose stakes and rules are hidden in time. The hotel's upper floors hold rooms where travelers experience subtle disturbances. Footsteps echo through hallways when no one walks beside them. Lights flicker in suites that remain empty. Furniture occasionally shifts by small amounts, enough to be noticed but insufficient to explain. The atmosphere grows heavier after sunset, and the building seems to embrace the quiet, amplifying each creak, whisper, and distant shuffle. The past, it seems, becomes more insistent as darkness spreads. History is tangible throughout the hotel. Faded photographs line walls, depicting smiling guests, performers, and gamblers. Polished bars and lounges still carry the faint scent of spirits and perfume, as though the echoes of celebration linger. Even the architecture seems to remember the pace and excitement of the past, corridors arranged to guide movement and attention, spaces designed for gathering and spectacle. This design, combined with the events reported, creates a sense that the hotel continues to host its former inhabitants, allowing fragments of their lives to persist. Guests often notice figures appearing unexpectedly. A man in a tailored suit may walk past a staircase, pausing briefly before vanishing into shadow. Before vanishing into shadow. A woman may glide across the lobby, her dress swaying, leaving only the impression of motion and presence. Leaving only the impression of motion and presence. These encounters are usually brief, never threatening, yet leave a lasting sense of awareness, as if the hotel is a stage where time folds, and the past can be observed without interference. Never threatening. Yet leave a lasting sense of awareness. As if the hotel is a stage where time folds. And the past can be observed without interference. Even in empty rooms, the sensation of observation persists. Visitors feel eyes upon them, a quiet attention that is neither hostile nor welcoming. The weight is subtle but unmistakable, encouraging reflection and careful movement. Sounds carry differently in this environment, amplified and enriched by the hotel's dimensions. Every creak, every sigh of air, every distant footstep adds to the immersive experience, drawing guests into a dialogue with history. The hotel's dining and entertainment spaces hold their own resonance. Tables and chairs remain in elegant arrangements, ready for service that will never arrive. Faint echoes of laughter and conversation drift across these rooms. At night, chandeliers catch and bend the dim light, casting patterns that seem to move with intent. Guests often find themselves captivated by these subtle motions, noticing how shadows and reflections create forms that are momentarily human in shape, only to dissolve before recognition. Time within the Crimson Eagle Hotel feels fluid. Minutes stretch in quiet spaces, and the rhythm of the building follows an unseen cadence. Those who linger on staircases or in corridors report a heightened sensitivity to sound. A clarity of movement that makes every step deliberate. The hotel seems to invite attention, rewarding those who notice with fleeting glimpses of life that once was. Preserving the elegance and emotion of its golden era. Leaving the hotel often inspires the same reflection. Travelers pause in the lobby or at the entrance, sensing that the building observes their departure, registering presence as it has throughout the night. The echoes of footsteps, slamming doors, and distant games remain imprinted in memory. The Crimson Eagle Hotel is not merely a relic, it is a living repository of experiences, a place where history is tangible, and where visitors become participants in the continuing story of a building that refuses to forget. Ultimately, the Crimson Eagle Hotel stands as a bridge between past and present. Its architecture, ambience, and subtle disturbances preserve the essence of a time long gone, offering guests an immersive experience that is at once elegant, mysterious, and unforgettable. Every shadow, every sound, every fleeting figure reminds visitors that the hotel carries its history forward, maintaining the energy and drama of the lives that once animated its halls. The hotel's past is a living, breathing entity that seeps into every corner of the present, offering guests an unforgettable journey through the realms of time. Guests are drawn into the hotel's mysterious world, where the lines between reality and madness blur, and the very fabric of time seems to unravel. The hotel's secrets are waiting to be uncovered, hidden in the shadows and whispers, as the guests delve deeper into the heart of the hotel's mysterious world. The landscape stretches endlessly, a patchwork of mountains, valleys, rivers, and forests that have existed long before human footsteps touched the earth. Each ridge and plateau holds the weight of centuries, shaped by wind, rain, and time, carrying stories that cannot be read but are felt by those who pause to observe. The light changes constantly, sliding across rock and foliage, highlighting details that disappear in the blink of an eye, revealing the delicate balance between permanence and transience that defines the natural world. Walking through this environment requires more than physical effort. It demands attention, patience, and an openness to subtle shifts in perception. Trails curve unpredictably, guided by the land itself rather than by human intent. Rocks and roots create obstacles that demand careful navigation, while streams and rivulets break the monotony of dirt paths, offering the gentle sound of flowing water as a guide and a companion. Every step becomes a rhythm, a dialogue between body and terrain, a momentary acknowledgement of the vastness surrounding it, a vastness that demands humility. A moment to reflect on one's place in the universe. A reminder of the unknown. A moment to ponder the mysteries of existence. A sense of awe and wonder. A feeling of insignificance. A moment of existential crisis. A realization of the universe's indifference. A moment of introspection. A search for meaning in the void. A moment of existential contemplation. Vegetation changes with the seasons, creating a dynamic mosaic that is alive with color and texture. Trees lean and sway, responding to wind and weight, their leaves rustling softly in patterns that are both soothing and disorienting. Flowers bloom fleetingly, insects dart among them, and birds punctuate silence with sudden calls that echo across valleys. Flowers bloom fleetingly, insects dart among them, and birds punctuate silence with sudden calls that echo across valleys. Flowers bloom fleetingly, insects dart among them, and birds punctuate silence with sudden calls that echo across valleys. Even the smallest creatures contribute to a symphony of life, a constant reminder that this landscape is a web of interdependent elements, each influencing and shaping the other in ways both visible and unseen. Water is a guiding presence in the wilderness. Rivers carve canyons, trickle over stones, or pool in quiet basins that reflect sky and trees. Moisture clings to rocks and soil, feeding roots and sustaining life. The sound of water moving is a subtle companion, providing continuity in an environment where change is constant. Streams and waterfalls alter perception, drawing attention to the persistence and power of natural forces, reminding travelers that the land is active, not static. Reminding travelers that the land is active, not static. Light itself is an element to be observed. Sunlight filters through leaves, creating shifting patterns on the ground. Shadows stretch and contract as the day progresses, transforming familiar paths into unfamiliar terrain. Morning mist softens edges, blurring the line between solid and air, while dusk casts long silhouettes that deepen the sense of scale and perspective. Observers must adjust continuously, attuning to these subtle cues to maintain orientation and awareness. Silence plays a profound role in shaping experience. In the absence of wind, animals, or human activity, the smallest sounds become amplified. Breaths, footsteps, and rustling leaves resonate with clarity, creating an intimate connection to the environment. Silence also invites reflection, allowing the mind to perceive layers of movement, energy, and presence that are often overlooked. Awareness grows, and the observer becomes part of the landscape itself, attuned to rhythms that cannot be imposed but only felt. Time within this environment is fluid. Minutes can feel like hours, and hours can pass unnoticed in a state of focused engagement. The movement of light, wind, and water, combined with the attention required to navigate uneven terrain, creates a perception of time that is both immersive and disorienting. Human constructs of duration become secondary to the cycles of nature, and patience becomes an essential companion on the journey. The environment shapes perception as much as it is shaped by it. Travelers report that paths seem to shift subtly, landmarks appear in new positions. And familiar routes can feel unfamiliar after brief pauses. These shifts are not illusions of the mind alone, but reflections of a living, responsive landscape where observation itself influences experience. Attention and respect are required to navigate safely, yet they also enhance connection, offering a deeper understanding of place and context. Night transforms the landscape once more. Darkness softens outlines, blending features into a tapestry of shadow and light. Sounds become sharper, and movements are amplified by contrast. Stars emerge overhead, connecting distant points of light with the intimate space below. Shadows stretch and retreat, guiding the observer through subtle visual cues, while the air cools and carries scents that were imperceptible by day. The interplay of light and dark fosters heightened awareness, turning movement into a conscious, deliberate act. Immersion in this world is participatory. Observation, movement, and reflection are intertwined, creating a continuous dialogue between traveler and environment. Awareness deepens with each step, revealing patterns and connections that are otherwise unnoticed. This interplay fosters humility, sensitivity, and presence, emphasizing the interdependence of all elements within the landscape. By the journey's end, memory retains impressions that outlast the immediate experience. Shapes, sounds, textures, and rhythms linger, integrated with reflection and understanding. The traveler carries a fragment of the landscape within, a record of interaction, awareness, and connection that endures beyond physical departure. Each visit becomes both a personal exploration and a contribution to the ongoing story of a living world that continues, patient, intricate, and resilient, long after human presence has passed. The Silent Pines Hotel rests quietly among towering pine trees, their dark trunks stretching high into the sky. Mist rises from the forest floor, curling around the building and drifting through the parking lot, giving the hotel an ethereal, almost unreal appearance. Even in daylight, the fog softens every edge, blurring the lines between structure and forest. The air is damp and cool, carrying the scent of pine needles, wet earth, and the faint, lingering trace of wood polish from years past. Visitors often notice a stillness that is different from ordinary quiet. Sounds from the outside are muffled, the forest seeming to absorb noise rather than reflect it. Every footstep echoes softly along the wooden floors. But even these are absorbed by the building's construction, leaving the impression that time itself moves more slowly within the walls. The hotel feels suspended, existing apart from the world beyond the trees. The fog thickens as evening falls, wrapping the hotel in a soft, gray veil. Whispers are sometimes heard, soft and deliberate, drifting from empty rooms or corners just beyond vision. Guests report that the words are never clear, more a sense of speech than speech itself, like voices carried from a distance through the mist. A sound that seems to beckon without demand. Windows offer a view of the forest that is equally enigmatic. Figures are occasionally glimpsed moving between the trees. They sometimes pause at the edges of light, vanishing when observed directly, or appear to reach toward the building. Their presence is fleeting yet undeniable, leaving behind a sense of energy. That is both delicate and intense. Inside the hotel, shadows deepen quickly. Curtains sway with the wind, casting ever-changing patterns across floors and walls. Even familiar rooms can feel altered, corners seeming to stretch, hallways longer than they were moments before. Visitors often sense that the building itself is aware, responding subtly to movement and presence, observing without intrusion. The bedrooms carry their own weight. The air grows cooler at night, settling over beds and furniture. Some guests have felt the sensation of being lightly touched or nudged, not roughly but insistently, as though the hotel guides them to notice or move. Furniture sometimes shifts slightly between visits, chairs angled differently, objects moved a few inches, reinforcing the feeling that the hotel is alive in subtle ways. Sounds emerge differently in the Silent Pines Hotel. At first, only the wind and occasional branches brushing the windows are audible. Then, distant footsteps may be heard along the corridor, or the faint creak of doors opening and closing. Whispers continue, carried softly beneath the main rhythm of the night, blending with the swaying pines outside to create a soundscape both serene and charged with anticipation. The fog outside the windows enhances the sense of unreality. The forest seems endless, trees fading in and out of view, their forms softened and blurred. Ghostly figures appear and disappear, moving with a purpose that is never threatening. They linger at the edges of visibility, occasionally extending toward a room, as if curious or acknowledging the presence within. Those who observe them often report a mix of awe and unease, feeling simultaneously connected to and separated from the world beyond the glass. The hotel retains its beauty despite the unease. Wooden beams and high ceilings evoke craftsmanship of another era. Light filters through fogged windows, illuminating the floors with muted beams. Dust motes float in the air, drifting lazily in the shafts of light, carrying a sense of time preserved. The combination of forest, fog, and architecture creates a space that is both tranquil and charged, a place where history and presence coexist seamlessly. Guests who stay for extended periods often notice changes in perception. Time seems slower, movement more deliberate, and thoughts more reflective. The whispers and figures create a rhythm, almost like a pulse, that guides attention and awareness. Dreams are vivid, filled with corridors, fog, and shadowed pines. Even after leaving, memories linger: the scent of damp needles, the faint pressure of unseen presence, and the echo of whispers carried on the wind. The Silent Pines Hotel endures as a witness to the forest and the fog that envelopes it. It observes without interruption, holds memory in its walls, and welcomes those who arrive with a presence that is gentle yet persistent. The whispers, the figures, the shifting shadows, and the cool air all serve to remind visitors that the hotel is more than a building. It is a space where the ordinary and the extraordinary coexist, a quiet yet vivid presence that continues to captivate, unsettle, and inspire long after one has left its doors. Continues to captivate, unsettle, and inspire long after one has left its doors. And a cold, silent sky by night. The inn rises modestly from the flat landscape, its walls pale against the shifting colors of the dunes. Travelers pause to admire the distant mountains and the open expanse, unaware that the inn holds an atmosphere that changes as the sun dips below the horizon. As evening approaches, shadows lengthen across the building and the surrounding desert. What seem like ordinary stretches of shade begin to shift unnaturally, stretching farther than light and architecture allow. They stretch and twist, sometimes converging into shapes that resemble figures watching from the distance. The air itself feels heavier, charged with a presence that is difficult to describe. The extreme heat and cold of the desert contribute to the inn's strange phenomena. During the day, the sun beats down relentlessly, causing mirages to shimmer across the horizon. At night, the temperature drops sharply, and the desert becomes quiet, almost expectant. Guests report a heightened awareness of movement and sound in these conditions. Even when the inn is empty, there is the sensation of being observed, a subtle pressure at the edge of perception. figures appear along desert trails at night. Travelers walking beyond the immediate grounds have described seeing human shapes standing motionless among dunes and rocks. They do not approach, yet they are undeniably present. The figures often vanish when confronted directly, leaving behind only the imprint of awareness, the sense that something or something is following, noting every step. Inside the inn, rooms carry their own impressions. Guests describe feeling eyes upon them even when the doors are locked and the lights are off. Curtains drift without wind. And faint whispers carry along corridors. Footsteps echo softly in hallways that are otherwise empty. These occurrences are fleeting but undeniable, creating a persistent unease that seems to be woven into the building itself. The architecture of Mojave shadows amplifies the experience. Long hallways lead to isolated rooms with windows facing the desert. And patios extend into the open night. Shadows from porch lights stretch along walls and sand, appearing longer and darker than logic would allow. Mirrors reflect corners that are empty, yet visitors feel that something exists just beyond perception. Each turn, each glance, carries the potential for subtle observation. Guests often notice a pattern to the phenomena. They report seeing shadow figures near open desert trails. Cold spots ripple through rooms during the night. Sometimes, the cold spots move along the floor as though tracing a path. Doors, though firmly shut, occasionally shift or open slightly without explanation. The experience is quiet and indirect, never threatening. But impossible to ignore. The desert itself plays a role. Moonlight casts shadows that stretch and shift unpredictably, blending the natural with the inexplicable. Heat shimmers and refracts light during the day, creating illusions of movement that sometimes linger in memory long after sunset. The combination of these elements leaves visitors uncertain where perception ends and reality begins. Some guests attempt to rationalize the experiences as tricks of temperature, light, or isolation. Yet patterns recur, and independent accounts align too consistently to dismiss entirely. Shadows detach from walls, figures appear along trails, cold spots move inexplicably, and a sense of observation persists even when no one else is present. The inn seems to absorb and reflect the extremities of the desert around it, creating a space where reality feels subtly altered. Visitors leaving Mojave shadows carry memories that linger. The sensation of being watched does not fade immediately, and the images of shadowed figures along desert trails remain vivid. Cold spots and drifting doors replay in imagination. Guests often recount dreams in which hallways, patios, and desert vistas blend into one continuous space where light and shadow shift with deliberate awareness. The inn combines isolation, extreme climate, and architectural design to create an environment where subtle phenomena are amplified. Mojave Shadows Inn does not announce itself loudly. It does not chase or harm. It exists quietly, a space where shadows extend beyond expectation, figures linger at the edge of vision, and the desert's extremes heighten perception. Visitors become part of an unfolding experience that is felt more than seen, leaving impressions that endure long after departure. Night in the desert deepens the mystery. Shadows stretch across walls and dunes, figures appear briefly along trails, and rooms carry the weight of unseen eyes. The wind whispers across the sand, cooling the skin and carrying sound in unpredictable ways. Each step, each glance, each moment spent in the inn heightens awareness, creating a vivid sense that the building and desert are alive in subtle, patient ways. The weight of unseen eyes. A sense that the building and desert are alive in subtle, patient ways. Mojave Shadows Inn is both sanctuary and enigma. It offers comfort and hospitality while hosting phenomena that defy easy explanation. Guests enter the inn seeking rest, but often leave with impressions that linger. Memories of shadows, figures, and a silent awareness that has been part of the desert long before the building rose from the sand. The inn remains still, waiting, observing, and reminding all who stay that the desert holds both beauty and quiet, watchful mysteries. A massive structure abandoned for decades yet refusing to fully yield to time. Yet some sections of the building appear untouched. And certain rooms remain impeccably preserved, as if awaiting the arrival of guests who will never come. Walking through the lobby, visitors feel an immediate sense of the past. Chipped chandeliers hang from high ceilings. And faded wallpaper hints at luxury long gone. The air carries a mixture of salt, dust, and the faint aroma of furniture polished years ago. Every step echoes, amplified by empty hallways that stretch farther than they should, creating a disorienting impression of distance. Ghostly figures are sometimes seen moving through the corridors. Guests describe shapes carrying luggage, walking steadily toward unseen destinations. The figures appear solid at first, yet dissolve when approached, leaving only a residual sense of movement and presence. Their pace is deliberate, as if bound to routines that persist beyond life, performing tasks that once defined daily life in the hotel. Voices emerge from rooms that were once suites for wealthy travelers. The calls are soft and strained, begging for help or attention, yet no one is ever found inside. They are fragmentary, fading and returning, a constant reminder that the hotel holds the echoes of its past occupants. The rooms themselves are remarkable. Despite years of abandonment, some retain furniture, linens, and copyright COR as if frozen in time. Beds are made neatly, tables set with fine china, and mirrors reflect light from nearby windows with surprising clarity. These pockets of preservation create a surreal contrast with the decay surrounding them, reinforcing the impression that the building remembers its former life. Time behaves strangely inside the forgotten sands. Hours can feel elongated, and footsteps or sounds appear to travel in unexpected directions. A single creak of a door may seem to repeat, echoing multiple times through corridors. Shadows stretch across walls, shifting in ways that make it difficult to determine their origin. The combination of sound, light, and perception produces an immersive sense of the past pressing against the present. Stairwells and elevators are especially unsettling. Figures may appear on landings, waiting silently, their outlines faint yet unmistakable. They do not move when noticed, yet disappear the instant attention is focused directly on them. The elevators, long out of service, sometimes seem to hum faintly or arrive with doors opening as if carrying passengers who no longer exist. Visitors who explore the suites report a mixture of awe and unease. Lavish furniture and ornate details speak to the grandeur that once defined the hotel. Yet the presence of the unexplained transforms admiration into caution. Faint footsteps echo in empty spaces. And whispers float along corridors. Even the exterior contributes to the haunting impression. The sands surrounding the hotel shift constantly, erasing paths and footprints within hours. Wind carries the faint sound of waves and distant voices, blending natural and unexplained sounds into a single, continuous backdrop. Light glimmers off windows in unexpected ways, creating fleeting reflections that suggest movement inside rooms thought empty. Night amplifies the effect. Shadows grow longer, and the hotel seems to breathe with a slow, deliberate rhythm. Every sound is magnified, from the whisper of wind through broken panes to the soft padding of footsteps on polished floors. Guests report feeling watched, a subtle awareness that movement is occurring just beyond their field of vision. Despite its abandonment, the hotel retains an air of ceremony and purpose. It does not threaten directly, nor does it chase. Instead, it maintains routines invisible to most eyes, preserving gestures, movements, and sounds that were once ordinary. Each hallway and room becomes a stage where echoes of history perform continuously. And each visitor becomes an unwitting observer of these lingering routines. Each hallway and room becomes a stage where echoes of history perform continuously. And each visitor becomes an unwitting observer of these lingering routines. And each visitor becomes an unwitting observer of these lingering routines, preserving gestures, movements, and sounds that were once ordinary. Each hallway and room becomes a stage where echoes of history perform continuously. By morning, the Forgotten Sands Hotel appears tranquil. Sunlight filters across the lobby, illuminating areas that seemed shadowed and threatening the night before. Dust motes float in beams of light, and the preserved rooms regain a sense of stillness. Yet the memory of the night persists. The footsteps, the luggage-carrying figures, and the distant voices remain vivid in the minds of those who experienced them. The hotel stands as a testament to endurance and memory, a place where time has layered upon itself. Its halls and suites hold the intersection of beauty, decay, and the unexplained. Visitors leave with impressions that linger, a mixture of wonder, unease, and respect. The Forgotten Sands Hotel continues to exist as a bridge between eras, holding the presence of those who once walked its halls and creating a space where history, memory, and mystery converge in ways that endure long after the doors are closed. Nightfall Hotel rises from the desert landscape of Nevada, a structure built during the early railroad era. Its brick FAA section A bears the patina of age, and iron railings trace balconies that once welcomed travelers arriving by train. By day, the hotel appears stately, its large windows reflecting sunlight and the surrounding mountains. Guests pass through its doors expecting comfort and history, yet the building carries a weight that is immediately perceptible, a subtle tension woven into the hallways and rooms. Inside, the lobby stretches with polished floors and high ceilings, lined with mirrors that capture light and reflection. It is here that many visitors first notice something unusual. Mirrors occasionally display movement that does not match the observer. A reflection may linger, hesitate, or shift independently, creating the impression of another presence nearby. The sensation is fleeting but unmistakable, leaving a lingering awareness of being watched, even when the room is otherwise empty. The ballroom is the heart of the hotel, a space designed for gathering, music, and celebration. At night, it takes on a different character. Figures appear in the center of the room, moving slowly and deliberately. Men in suits and women in elegant gowns glide across the floor, performing silent dances with invisible partners. Their movements are fluid and precise, echoing the formal steps of a time long past. Guests watching from doorways often feel a mix of awe and unease, sensing the energy of past events preserved in the space. Sounds in Nightfall Hotel are subtle but persistent. Footsteps echo along hallways, approaching and retreating with no visible source. Doors open and close quietly, and floorboards creak under invisible weight. The hotel seems to maintain a rhythm of its own, independent of the guests within. Even silence is rich, carrying the memory of conversations, laughter, and the faint clatter of train arrivals that once brought travelers to these doors. Rooms throughout the hotel bear the imprint of history. Furniture, while maintained, shows we're consistent with decades of occupancy. Carpets and draperies absorb sound, yet they do not mute the presence that lingers in the air. Lights flicker at times, casting shifting shadows that suggest movement beyond the immediate field of vision. The effect is never aggressive, but it draws attention, creating the sense that the hotel itself participates in observation. The corridors connecting rooms and public spaces amplify this awareness. Each hallway bends slightly, creating pockets where sound and shadow behave unpredictably. Guests walking alone often feel an invisible companion, a subtle sense of being followed without being pursued. Steps match pace, pause when the observer pauses and yet remain intangible, leaving only the memory of contact. Leaving only the memory of contact. The hotel's history of unexplained deaths contributes to its reputation. Records show sudden illnesses, accidents, and disappearances over the decades. While these events are documented, it is the lingering presence they leave behind that shapes visitor experiences. Some describe a chill in the air, a sudden weight on the chest, or an uncanny intuition that they are not alone. These sensations are intermittent but persistent, a quiet reminder of the hotel's layered past. Nightfall Hotel's architecture enhances the sense of immersion. High ceilings, large mirrors, and expansive ballrooms create spaces where perception is altered. Shadows stretch and bend, reflecting shapes that may not exist. Light filtering through aged windows shifts throughout the day, creating pools that isolate areas and emphasize movement. The design allows the past to feel tangible, inviting attention and reflection from those who enter. Visitors often report that their interactions with the space are subtle yet unmistakable. A chair may seem slightly moved, a rug misaligned, or a door closed differently than expected. These details are small, yet they reinforce the sense of the hotel as an entity aware of presence, responding to those who traverse its halls. The experience is immersive, blending visual, auditory, and tactile cues into a cohesive awareness that is difficult to ignore. Difficult to ignore. Time within Nightfall Hotel feels altered. Minutes stretch in empty hallways. And the pulse of the building does not always align with clocks. Guests linger in spaces, observing shadows, listening to faint sounds, and sensing movement beyond immediate perception. The hotel's past and present coexist, creating an environment where awareness of history shapes every step and glance. When leaving, visitors often pause in the lobby or near exits, feeling a lingering connection to the space. Reflections in mirrors, subtle sounds, and the memory of silent dancers continue to echo in perception. The hotel seems to acknowledge departure, offering a quiet closure, while leaving the impression that its presence endures, patient and observant. Ultimately, Nightfall Hotel is more than a building. It is a repository of experience, a space where architecture, history, and perception converge. Figures in the ballroom, independent reflections, and faint sounds invite guests to engage with the hotel fully, to observe and reflect on the layers of time embedded within its walls. Each visit offers an immersive encounter, a chance to witness a place where the past lingers gracefully, and where memory and presence continue to dance in tandem. Thank you for exploring the haunted hotels of Nevada with me tonight. The lights of Nevada may dazzle, but behind the glimmer are shadows that never fade. These hotels carry history, tragedy, and restless spirits that wander endlessly through halls, rooms, and corridors. Some visitors leave terrified, some haunted for years, and some never return. If you ever find yourself checking into a hotel at night in Nevada, remember these tales. Step carefully, pay attention to the shadows, and ask yourself, would you brave a night in a room where the past refuses to rest, or would you leave while you still can? Sleep well, my friend, until our next haunted journey.